Citizen Kane is considered a cinematic marvel, and it's very common for other pieces of art to be compared to this movie, since it defined a before and after for the industry. Cinema started as no more than a fair attraction, and not even the Lumiere brothers were confident in their creation. Directors like Méliès saw it as just entertainment not to be taken seriously, but soon a genius would reveal itself to the world. Orson Welles created a lot of commotion when in the late 30s he narrated The War of the Worlds, a radio broadcast in a first-person format, as if it was himself the one experiencing the story. RKO Pictures contracted him to make a movie, making sure he had absolute narrative freedom. Oh, I forgot how to explain how cinema was made at the time. Hollywood always had a very centralized and systematized production model, where movies were made with a particular end in mind. It's all cool, the art is expressive and such, but just as musicians used to work for the king, directors used to work for millionaires that wanted to establish specific morals amongst the general population. Hollywood directors had no creative freedom, and experimental cinema had no investors. But Orson Welles had both. Counting with enough staff and plenty of resources, you can make wonders, and taking into account Welles' background in radio and theater, it is safe to say that he had a fresh perspective on what cinema could do. He demonstrated that cinema was able to express and cause emotions just like any other entertainment medium. Welles utilized every tool at his disposal just to say, Citizen Kane is about a millionaire who says Rosebud before dying. The story centers around the reporter that investigates what that word means. This could have been narrated in many ways, but Orson chose flashbacks as a tool to relay information to the watcher. They also served to express a point of view of a character on certain events as well. Flashbacks can be seen as small, less well-structured and more relaxed stories. This narrative style was very important, but not the most important part of Citizen Kane. The movie demonstrated an aspect of life itself that cinema didn't usually show, especially not Hollywood. Citizen Kane shows a millionaire whose last words nobody could understand. A rich man that has it all. What could he be lamenting about? Back in the day, Hollywood used to preach about positivity. Everything was A-OK. But Kane pointed out that even if we have it all, something is amiss, and the memory of our loved ones is what lingers the most. But as we remain, there are absences that can never be filled, and our biggest problem is that we try to fill a hole with material goods. But it's never enough. Wait, this was meant to be the closing line. Orson introduced depth of focus to showcase various elements. This was very common in the theater scene, not so much in cinema. The cinema scene was centered on being as compact as possible, as clear as possible. Welles, on the other hand, allowed our gaze to wander all over the place to focus on anything on the frame. Oh, right, the depth of focus. Depth of focus allows for the camera to, focus on objects in frame. It creates a hole where the background can also carry narrative elements, meaning that the characters and the background have the same narrative presence, and we can choose what to pay attention to. Citizen Kane not only had a polemic message, but also broke with the idea of transparency on the cinema, and allowed the narrative to flow through the gaze of the viewer instead of Hollywood's focus of filters. This independency and freedom denoted a before and after, and just like surrealism and abstract art, we learned that this art form was more than just a way to fillet rich people that controlled the industry. This movie demonstrated to the world that cinema could not only show more, but also have more meaning and impact. Showed through Kane's life that all the money in the world can't fill the hole that a loved one once occupied. Showed us that the American dream was used as a tool to make lower classes find a comfort in their roles in society. Obviously, Orson was branded as a communist at the time. He must have done something. Nevertheless, he inspired many directors to surpass the barriers of what was possible in their times and the refined system forced into them. The first stone was thrown on Kane's death, and just as Kane as the model for the citizens was ridiculed, also did the cinema as a tool for social control. And after all, what's money for if we can't spend it on what we want? What's cinema for if directors can't tell a story that they believe reflects our reality? Maybe it serves a purpose, but not for us.
Until you've loved the love you've had to lose.
Maybe it serves a purpose, but not for us.